For the sports lovers out there who like to get their gamble on, whether it be on the NBA games, NFL, Major League Soccer, even National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, even college sports, go to BetUS.com to make that bet. If you use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times, you get up to 125% of the sign-up bonus, which is up to $2,500. Another perk you can see, you can bet on the go, which means you can bet anytime, anywhere on your mobile device. You get fast payouts, so you can get your payouts immediately every single time. Do not have to wait. And you can do live betting when you can bet during the game, whether it's early or the best lines, you can do it all. So anyway, please sign up for BetUS.com. Use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times. You'll be able to do so right. Check out BetUS.com, where the game begins. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Klown Podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Hello. You can please check me out on my website at www.theklowntimes.net. That is my sports blog. You can also check me out on Facebook. So where you're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, where you be, you'll find me there as well. After the Bulls, especially this almost NFL season. Team Petty, I hate the Cowboys. I want to show everyone in the world how bad the Cowboys organization are. So, but anyway, so check me out there as well. And also, speaking of the hat, you can check out my merch on cafepress.com, search for Klown Times Sports. The link will be in the description underneath this video. Once this gets uploaded to YouTube, you find it there as well. Last but not least, please see the like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm now over 500 subscribers, so I celebrate the small victories. 505, hey, it's all good. I'm trying to hit the goal of 1,000 subscribers by year's end, so I can get the ball rolling again and monetize. But anyway, I'm well on my way to that goal, so thank y'all again. So please see the like, comment, share, subscribe, and support. Whether if you don't like what I have to say or not, hey, I've gone back and forth before, especially on my past HBCU podcast. Anyway, check me out there. You do that as well. So this is going to be cool. This is going to be very interesting because my next guest, she is making a maiden voyage, if you will, into the Klown Podcast. Y'all can check her out on Locked On ACC, where she gives great information and great podcasts. And also you can check out on YouTube. And by the way, how often do you upload to YouTube right quick? Your show?
Every single day.
Every single day. So once again, this is Candace Cooper. So
yeah.
UNC alum, everything else, a big fan. So I won't hold that against it, but welcome Candace to the Klown Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to just talk a little shop and, hopefully give people a little takeaway when it's all said and done.
You got it. So before we get into all things ACC right quick, tell us your journey because how you started how you came upon the podcast. You started just really quickly, if you like, or take whatever time you like. Just tell tell me about your journey, pretty much almost like how you started on the bottom, now you're here.
I still feel like I'm slightly at the bottom, maybe mid-tier, but I pretty much swam in college at UNC. I was the first Black swimmer to swim at UNC Chapel Hill as a female to represent Black women for sure. And in my 2016 campaign, I decided to compete at Olympic trials. I actually trained at NC State post-grad because I lived in Raleigh. And after I retired in 2016, I kind of didn't have my way. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just, on a whim, just figuring things out, right? Mm-hmm. And I had no identity outside of swimming, but I really loved sports. And so I happened to go to a networking event that one of my friends threw and ended up speaking with a local radio host. And by the end of the conversation, I was just like, hey, I shot my shot. I was like, you should try, just have me on the show once a week, see how it goes. So they invited me on the show. I had a 3-hour spot every Tuesday to co-host the Sports Shop with Reese and K-Mac. Forever my guys, they're always, giving me opportunities. And from there, I got my first podcast called Out of My League with my co-host, Brendan Whitted. And we had a great time. It was very much like his and hers kind of vibe, podcast style of talking, local sports. And we did that once a week, making $25. And we were just, doing what we had to do, right? Grinding, covering all the games, doing that route, working full time, whatever I could get done in order to just, get my shot. From there, I got my first full-time gig in Houston, Texas. I was on a national show called All the Above. And it was cool in 2020, started end of 2019 into 2020. Then the world stopped, and then I had no job because they didn't have sports. So it was kind of like last one hired, first one fired. But I hit the pandemic pivot, and God has been good. And I was teaching swim lessons, and happened to see like almost like an ad in the paper, but it was via internet, where someone was looking for Locked On host to cover UNC. And so I gave it a shot, covered Locked On Tar Heels for a year. Then I sort of graduated to the entire conference doing Locked On ACC, and been doing it for 2 years now. So great opportunity in front of me to cover every school each and every day for 30 minutes with my great co-hosts. I have 4 really good guys that help me out. So it's not just me, but it's a great time. So I'm very grateful to David Locke, the host of Locked On Jazz. He is the voice of the Utah Jazz. He has given so many different people the opportunity and space to, cover their local teams and have that local expertise that they provide to their audience.
That is outstanding. That's awesome. I mean, it's one of those things where you appreciate the journey, right? It's like the destination is much sweeter by the journey, appreciating the journey. So, or whatever that wise person once said. But at any rate, so, I mean, like you, I just quickly, I started just almost by accident. I kept a blog for several years, which I hadn't written anything in about a month because I've been vlogging all over the place. I had time to write, but at any rate, one of my boys from college just quickly just said, "Hey man, why don't you turn this thing into a vlog, a podcast?" So and ever since then I've been doing it. So it's been great. But I'm late to the party. But hey, again, I love the small victories. I celebrate the small victories. It makes that journey that much sweeter. So great for you. You got a great podcast, and we'll talk more about your podcast shortly. So anyway, speaking of which, ACC. So ACC Media Days. Obviously, we know about the realignment that shook the entire world. First, obviously, last summer, I should say, it was Texas and Oklahoma. I should say Oklahoma and Texas, about to leave the Big 12 to the SEC in 2025, right? So at least geographically, that kind of makes sense because that's the Southwest, so technically that's still the South.
Sure.
But then this year, this last month, USC and UCLA going to the going to the Big Ten. Excuse me. I thought I was being punked. I thought there was somebody, like the Onion, making that. But really, LA schools in the Midwest. Good luck with that. So, and then how that affects the ACC, because obviously in the this realignment Game of Thrones, you don't want to be caught flat-footed, obviously, right? You want to make your moves into place. You want to kind of like the former commissioner John Swofford, aka Ninja Swaff, right? Just making his moves like in the back room and whatever. But basically, let me pose this question to you. With those realignment moves, and I had some ACC buddies of mine on last month to give me their perspective. I'm gonna get your perspective on this. Right now, from the media days, where does the ACC fit right now? What is the view right now of the ACC at this flashpoint?
I would say it's probably a step below a laughingstock, because at this point, we know from a revenue standpoint, we're getting lapped in a lot of ways with the SEC and the Big Ten, now the Big Ten. And so it's kind of hard to listen. At the end of the day, I understand the morality piece of it. I'm an Olympic sport athlete myself. I'm always advocating for Olympic sport athletes. I think there are a lot of people that, participated in those respective sports that end up being in your boardroom. So I get it. Unfortunately, that's not the name of the revenue game. We all know football and men's basketball is king. It's a little bit of women's basketball, but for the most part, football and men's basketball. And if you're not playing the game correctly, you're going to get left behind, and nobody's going to feel empathy for you. So I think while we have the morality of, yes, we have 28 programs and all the things, eventually we're going to have the hard conversation of, unless we have the schools with the branding, with the revenue and the funds that can, really elevate the brand, is going to be hard to kind of convince people to stick around in the ACC. I mean, while I will say there's a 9-figure penalty to try and leave in the next like 13 years. And I don't see anybody rushing. I also don't see people being excited about what's to come. I mean, while the coaches didn't speak much to it, you could definitely tell Commissioner Phillips was very much trying to be like, come on, guys, we know this is morally wrong. Like, we know it shouldn't be a pay-for-play type system. And that's all well and good, but we've been past that point for a while now. And so it would have been more impressive if he had come out with a more hard staking stance towards it in terms of, hey, we're going to do whatever we can. We are going to do our damnedest to get Notre Dame in the conversation. Right. I know something. Now, he always seems, for the second year in a row now he's been commissioner, he always alludes to having strong conversations with the people in the Catholics that be. And listen, I'm all for independence, but at the end of the day, you gotta make something shake. So until they truly get on board, I don't think they'll ever go to the Big Ten. I think they'll stay independent if nothing else. We really don't have a lot of people to compete with. I mean, there are some Pac-12 schools that are great to consider, but at the end of the day, if you're having Miami and Florida State starting to flirt with the SEC, if you have Clemson starting to flirt with the SEC, you're in big trouble as a conference.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything you just said. I'll talk about more about Notre Dame in a second, but Commissioner Phillips. Now, when he was hired, when he came on, former athletic director at Northwestern. He knows the Big Ten pretty well, so he's been through this. He's his fair share of rodeos. But I know that he did a good thing, great thing, getting Comcast, right? Mm-hmm. So that should help a lot with the distribution and with this. Because
I think it'll help, but I think at the end of the day, if you don't have a strong network, like I don't run to the ACC network for my ACC news, right? Like beyond my podcast, true. I'm not looking at the hosts and really wanting to know what some of these ACC network hosts are saying. So I think that's where we're being slighted, especially like how much people put into, we have own universities like Texas who have their own network. Like they have their own thing going for them. They have money it's wealth. It's not even rich at this point. So unless you're trying to talk and bring those kind of people in the conversation, we're just doing ourselves a disservice here.
Yeah. Well, so that leads me to this next question about Commissioner Phillips. Seems like the dude is in over his head. I'm sorry to be blunt, but I mean, look, I've had my complaints about former Commissioner John Swofford. I thought they was too basketball-centric in the football era. I thought that his additions granted, Boston College was pretty good back when they were at it, along with Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. But particularly with the additions of Syracuse and Pitt, I thought were more basketball moves instead of expanded the footprint into Pennsylvania, into New York, upstate New York. But still, I thought those were more basketball moves in this kind of pack. I mean, except for the last 2 years with Pitt, who's been holding up their end with the football, and I think they're going to be even better this year. We'll talk about that later on. I think Syracuse for football, now basketball is about to become mediocre. It's been a disaster from that standpoint, but still, John Swofford got us the ACC network. John Swofford, the Ninja Swaff, he made moves. He got Notre Dame, albeit not fully in, right? Mm-hmm. The influence helped the Bowls influence and everything else, high payoffs and everything else. But with all this talk about Phillips, I just have the feeling he's in over his head. Now, if he does the impossible and gets Notre Dame to come on, hook up by crook, I may change my stance. But to me right now, it just seems to me he's in over his head, and that's not what well for the conference.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the first person to say that. I think he said, I'm not trying to be Pollyannish about this. I'm not trying to be like a Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. He understands the revenue implications of the decisions that are before him. And again, I think he's probably a really nice man. I think he probably will, give me a recommendation if I needed it. But at the end of the day, when you're in a certain level and you're in a certain position, you're not doing it for morality, right? You make peace with your own maker in due time. I think right now you need to be a shark. You need to be out here making all kind of backdoor deals, and you need to be coming hot, because at the end of the day, SEC, they stuck to what they know, and that's at good old red-blooded American football. Like, they know that's what's going to feed their base. ACC, I'm like, I get the conference. Coastal loves basketball, but even when we're having our down years, we're over here having to fight to prove why we're still a viable, men's basketball conference, right? And so that you don't even have that, let alone you're trying to hit the big powerhouse that is football. He's just not putting himself in a good position. And then year two, you would have hoped to see a leap. I mean, we talk about schools all the time in football and programs. We're hoping that our commissioner has the same kind of growth, and we haven't necessarily seen that.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about teams, I'm just because it popped in my head, but you just said that. If you're advising the Atlantic Coast Conference, our beloved Atlantic Coast Conference, the conference of our youth, what would Candace's steps be? What would you as a consultant advise the ACC to do right now? Because right now, to your point, we're like a step below laughingstock. We may not be the third most powerful conference right now. The Big 12 has been making an argument about that when it's all said and done. So how would you have, what should the next steps be for the ACC to remain viable, even though the grant of rights is going to be sticking to 2036? But we all know 2 or 3 years before the grant of rights is over, that's when announcements are made and whatnot. But what should the ACC do?
Yeah, I mean, in the time frame that we have the grant of rights, I think you can very much be plotting and planning. I think that right now, in the next 3 to 5 years, teams just don't have the financial luxury, especially with how some of the turnover has been for some of these programs. Like they're having to pay these coaches, things like Florida State can't afford to, Miami and Mario Cristobal can't afford to try and leave the situation. But what I would do is sell my soul like Illuminati style to try and get Notre Dame in, like that. Whatever I had to do to get the Fighting Irish to be fully in, because Notre Dame has a fan base like I've never seen, and covering a lot of football, they in droves. And because for, at a time, we know that was the only football some people could watch growing up. And so they've just, been passed down. They got the Rudy thing. Like there's just so many levels to Notre Dame. So you've got to figure out how to get Notre Dame in the conversation. And then from there, you have to sugar and figure out how to spread money to your powerhouses, Clemson, the Miamis, the Florida States, the North Carolinas, who all have extremely strong brands. And you have to try and figure out ways to elevate the I would say poorer football programs that we have in the ACC currently. So it's all about, you have good pieces, but you need to add that one missing, like get that queen in there. Notre Dame to me would be the queen.
Now, aside from Notre Dame, do you think that uneven revenue distribution, similar to what the Big 12 did with Oklahoma and Texas, would you recommend that, or how would you go about that?
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you should have a revenue split based on performance, based on, financial attributions that you bring to the conference. I think there definitely needs to be a conversation around that, because we know certain schools are doing better than others. But I don't think there's a slouch team that we have here, or a slouch program, or slouch money in any of our schools. Everyone's well off. Like Duke's not hurting for anything, right? Sure. Clemson, from a football brand standpoint, it's not hurting for anything. So I think, better distribution, I think that would make people internally happy, and then you can move on from there. And then you also, again, sweeten up the deal with Notre Dame to make them feel like we're not trying to come in and take what you got. We just want to add to, we want you to add to what we already have rolling.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about performance-based, because I don't think we have to worry about Boston College, Louisville, and Wake Forest crying, complaining, been threatened to leave. I don't think no one wants to. So, you make a good point there.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to Notre Dame right quick. Ever since Notre Dame, they made a deal with Notre Dame to play 5, 6 ACC schools per year at a rotation. You notice that everywhere Notre Dame's going on the road in the ACC, they've sold out. Like Wake Forest, they played them a couple of times recently. And Wake Forest, as a little engine that they are. I love their coach. I love Dave Clawson. I love the fact that he's doing it with essentially one-hand tied behind his back, right? From a resources perspective. They should be pretty good again this year. But they rarely sell out that place. Even last year, they rarely sold the place out. Maybe they came close to NC State, but still, they rarely sell the place out. But when Notre Dame would come through, those fans, I didn't realize how well those fans travel. And also, to your point, how wide the nationwide the fan base is. Like when they played us at NC State, like once during the monsoon a few years ago, the tail end of that hurricane, and once a little bit after that, to typically do okay attendance-wise, but they sold out the place.
Yeah.
Same with Pitt, same with Virginia, same with Carolina even. Carolina has a great fan base, but they sold that place out. And we could go on and on. I mean, they travel. They're the brand. And no matter how good, no matter how, if they even have a mediocre year or off year, they still draw. ESPN, not ESPN, NBC wants to give them that money. So to your point, I would really tap into your idea of performance-based distribution in the form of Notre Dame on like on the low. You can keep in this NBC money. You don't have to worry about splitting it, with us.
Yeah.
It's being real because we know that Notre Dame is a white whale that's out there. You know what I'm saying? And if whichever conference, and to me, it's really down between the ACC and the Big Ten at this point. They're not going to ACC. So basically, I think whoever lands that white whale, it's like if you're the Big Ten, you're the overall winner. If you're the ACC, you're still in it. Because that's going to
1,000%.
Because that's going to cause ESPN to go back to the table, rework the contract, keep the grant of rights, obviously, but rewrite it and it adds more value. And to that point, I don't think that I talked about this in an earlier show last month, other ACC guys, buddies of mine. It's brought up that I don't think ESPN wants to lose Notre Dame as a property, especially to the Big Ten.
Sure.
I don't think they want to do that. I think that'll be not in the best interest of the world. So I expect something to happen. Again, the day that Notre Dame is no longer independent is the day that I'll probably 6 feet up. I don't think we'll ever see it. But if it's going to happen, Jim Phillips is over his head as he is. He has to sweet talk them, the Irish, and maybe get them to keep their NBC contract if NBC decides to go forward with giving them the contract and use that as performance, right?
Yeah.
So because they're the brand, they're
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. But to piggyback on that, we talk about brands. This whole rumor thing, maybe it's reality about the ACC exploring with the Pac-12, now Pac-10, about maybe has some partnerships, maybe showing some of their games the ACC network. It's going to change the value. At first, I came out. I'll just be transparent and say I was one of those idiots who said, "Well, maybe we try to get Stanford and Cal, get the Bay Area, maybe then go after the Oregon and Washington and say, hey man, let's make this a big Power 3 instead of Power 2. Let's go." Without realizing, is that really going to add value? Sure, you got Oregon with Nike money, Phil Knight money.
Yeah.
Washington's a decent brand. Stanford's a decent brand. They're both all four schools are, I think, AAU schools, universities, I should say. I don't know if that really adds to the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't think it does much, but I also think that from a actual university revenue standpoint, having to travel back and forth coast to coast is not feasible. Right. Even when you have your your Olympic sports, even have your football programs, bring football to expense, having them to go back and forth all those days early, all the things. Like, I just don't see it being a feasible or worthwhile conversation. I think a lot of athletic directors would be very much against it in the long term, because again, it's just not in the best interest of the student athlete. And I think when we're having a lot of these conversations, that gets really lost in it. It's like it's all nice to, wheel and deal and do all the things. But if you're not having, people in a position to ultimately put on a good show for you, which are the athletes, then you're sort of doing yourself a disservice.
Right. And to me, that wouldn't make any logistical sense anyway. So it better damn well be worth it, if it does enhance it enough to take the chance. I don't, from thinking about it more, I don't think that's the right move person for the ACC to even consider that.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to me is this. It's the good old, what I call the Al Davis theory. Just win. Just win. You need your brands to perform. Like you need Miami to act like Miami when I was a kid in the 80s. You need to act like Florida State when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami too in the 90s. You need Virginia Tech to act like as if the program they were in the 90s with Mike Vick and people and stars before that, Bruce Smith in the 80s before that. Those are your brands in Clemson. Those are your brands in Carolina. Those are your brands. We ACC fans need those 5 programs to act like what they supposed to act like in football. They did it before they joined. Well, Florida State held it in the bargain early, but Miami fell off when they joined the conference. And it's like both Florida State and Miami started sucking at the same time. And that just ruined it.
1,000%.
Yeah, so that drove that. So it's all about brands and who people want to watch, people want to see. That all due respect to Wake Forest and Clemson, and Pitts, no one wants to see them.
Yeah, it's tough. Definitely a tough outing.
They don't want to. And even with Duke had those good years on the Cutcliffe, no one wants to see Duke football. Duke basketball, yeah, but not football. They want to see Florida State. They want to see Miami. My voice is changing because I'm just discussing. But they want to see Virginia Tech. They want to see Clemson. They want to see the brands.
Yeah,
I want to see Matt Brown do the damn thing again. So we just need a win.
For sure. No, I agree. I don't think Mac Brown will do it at North Carolina, but I understand wanting to win. And of course, I think that hopefully we'll see some good things out of schools this season that makes us hopeful for the conference in general.
Well, I'll say this before we get speaking of schools' performance like prognostications and whatnot. Let's quickly comment on the 3-5-5 schedule model. We're finally getting rid of divisions. Thank the Lord. That was a bad. I never liked the idea of division, especially when we grew to 14 with the addition of Pitt and Syracuse. Teams seeing each other twice every 12 years. That's just not right.
Yeah.
So now this 3-5-5 model, I think is pretty cool. I like NC States. I think we have, it's going by memory here. So I think we got Carolina, Duke, and Clemson. We kept the Textile Bowl with Clemson. Obviously, Duke and Carolina, the fellow triangle squads. Wake Forest got the short end of the stick because we used to play Wake every year since the late 1800s, I think.
Yeah, it's like 110-year tradition. So yeah, I think that was tough.
And it's like an undercover, it's on the low, a good rivalry. It's really, people don't understand because Wake Forest used to be in the town of Wake Forest. And so obviously that's that proximity, and that's carried over even after they moved to Winston in the late 50s, I think. So it's carried over since then. But change is constant. It is what it is. But I think Wake ended again with Virginia Tech, Duke, and Georgia Tech, I think. Yeah, so it's different. But I like the fact that you guys, they obviously NC State, I think Duke too, right? And Virginia, you kept the South's oldest rival. So that's pretty dope too. So with that being said, I think once I wish they would have made the move or made the announcement last year and get it going this year, because I think there's going to be a lot of better teams in the ACC this year. But maybe that could help the bottom line of the ACC. Maybe that could help the ACC network program. Maybe, just getting more teams playing each other that way.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately better for the conference to have no divisions, because you get your best teams in your biggest games and on the biggest stage. So all of that would certainly, help the brand from a league perspective. But at the end of the day, it's kind of stinks for some of the coastal teams who may never have a chance again to be in the conversation. But a lot of things up in the air.
Nice. Okay. So before we get into the prognostications of the predictions of this season, I'm gonna read a quick message from our good friends at BetUS.com. So basically, sports bettors, your favorite sports book, BetUS.com is back for 28th year of NFL action. So live in-game betting, global odds of daily odds boosters, props, and parlays fast pass, and exceptional one-on-one customer service. We got it all. Log into betus.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. So betus.com, where the game begins. And you can also use the TKT for the Klown Times code if you want to get some great discounts and stuff too. So we'll close the show off on this. Predictions, right? We're not going to go through every team, obviously, because we don't get paid that much to do so. But at any rate, let's predict division winners, right? Actually, before division winners, who do you think is going to make the most improvement in the ACC this year? What school that's not being talked about should be on everyone's radar this coming season?
My personal opinion, I think that Duke football is going to have a better year than people think. I think they're going to start out potentially 4-0 and could find 2 more games in order to win 6. I think that's the one team to where they never had a problem with talent. They had a problem with, coaching staff. And now that that's out of the way, I think people have a rejuvenated passion for that program. And so I see it being a very good turnout for their game opening up against Temple. And from there, you have Northwestern, you have Kansas, you have North Carolina A&T. I think they're very winnable games for the Blue Devils. And then you just go in and you keep attacking one game at a time. And I think you catch people sleeping, because that's not impossible for the Coastal. So I think they're going to have a good year. Another team that I would just always be mindful for would probably be Boston College. I think they're going to have it better than people think. I think that Syracuse is going to be way more competitive than people think. It may not go in their favor all the time, but, I think every school you can make a case and argue for having a good season.
Speaking of Syracuse, I really like Dino Babers. I think he's hilarious, first of all, and he's very relatable. I think his players love him. I think people love him. I just think that he may be a victim of his own success. Remember his second season, he had a 10-win squad. And, when you, how it goes. When you overachieve quicker than you think, people have expectations, whether they're false hope or not. Yeah. Because Syracuse, let's be real, they're a little bit limited. They're not hurting. They're not hurting for cash or anything. It's their location, upstate New York. They play in an antiquated dome. And, they were able to make lemonade out of lemon bleak. But, the fact of the matter is, it's going to be tough sledding for him. But again, I like him a lot. It's not like he forgot how to coach. He's getting the players. So, and to your point, I think he has better players. Now, how that would translate in the standings, I don't know.
Yeah, listen, I think that Atlantic is a very difficult division. I think he would be better served to not have division going into next season, and it might be better for him if he is there that long. I always root for Dino for obvious reasons. He looks like me, and I'm always going to root for people in that case, because I think it's hard enough to be a head coach, let alone be a Black head coach in upstate New York. So, I'm always supporting him in that regard. Now, I think at the end of the day, the X's and O's and wins and losses are how you make sure you make your money. Yeah, that's the name of the game. That's why we do this. So I'm hoping that Sean Tucker has a big year. Garrett Schrader can improve under a new offensive system and they can figure it out. But overall, I think that they're a team that were in games last year. They just couldn't quite put it together. So I'm hoping that that's, we figure it out and we make a leap. Or if not, I think it's time to look elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I really hope Dino Babers does well. I would say, I would say also keeping, even though they were in the title game last year, people are sleeping on Wake Forest. I think the quarterback's coming back. I think they have a lot of firepower still coming back from last year's squad. I think Clawson made some changes defensively on the defensive staff, because let's face it, they couldn't stop me nor you last season. So, that's what did them in the end. But in spite of all that, they still had a great season. But I think Wake is sitting there on the side, listening to all this talk about NC State and Clemson, like going, okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think that the Demon Deacons are certainly, I think they have one of the best coaches in our conference. I personally think Clawson is easily one of the best coaches. I think Sam Hartman's been there long enough to where, of course, leadership is always going to go in your favor, especially when you have a good one. So hopefully he gets over some mental hurdles and can, really thrive this season. But the return of Donovan Green is really going to help. I think he is Jaquarii Robinson type ×2. So he has all freak athletic abilities to be successful. Just hope he can stay healthy. And then you got A.T. Perry, who certainly gave people problems last season. I don't think that Wake Forest is a team you ever count out because you have to play your best ball against them and they don't really make mistakes. So
right. Facts. Okay. So who you got from the Atlantic in this last year division? Thank the Lord. But who do you have I really hate this, but who do you have in the ACC title game? Who do you have?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with NC State. I'm hoping that they can pull out a strong Atlantic season. I think that they've already shown that they can beat Miami. Not Miami, Clemson. They did not beat Miami last year. That's my coastal team. Sorry to jump the gun there, but NC State certainly has all the pieces, 17 returners, 10 assistants that decided to stay. Doran certainly is not overbuying the hype, but he definitely knows that it's well-earned. Conversations around them. You have Devin Leary, who is very efficient in what he does, and he has guys like Devin Carter who are going to have excellent years. And I think that, it's just all about that defensive mindset. Peyton Wilson, can he stay healthy? Can you have, the Isaiah Moore coming off of injury, really excelling? So they are biggest thing that stops them. And they always have been. It's been disappointing in the past couple seasons. The Holiday Bowl certainly wasn't, it's one to hang your hat on, but I think NC State has all the pieces to be great. You had to get that Clemson monkey off your back. Now you're going into Death Valley this season, and you're going to have to play a team that DJ is looking for revenge, right? You're playing a defense that's no longer hurt. They know they have that one lick that they're trying to get back. So if you get over that monkey with a full squad, but at the end of the day, everyone's hurt by game 6. Who knows? Like, can you sack up? I think that if they can do that, the only thing stopping them is them. Can they not have brain fart games where they're just like, they absolutely should have won, things come up short. Like, that's how I think the Miami game was for them last year. I think Miami is going to win the Coastal in year 1. I think it's because it's so up in the air. I would love to say North Carolina, but I don't even know who our quarterback is right now. It's Kobe Quizrell, the Drake May. I think Tyler Van Dyke definitely put up that walk and talk energy out the gate. He was not scared to take that starting position, and he hasn't looked back. I think Mario Cristobal is a very no-nonsense coach, and discipline is extremely what Miami needed in the worst way. And he, off meeting him, I would make sure my shoes are tied at all times. Like, he just has that, I'm not playing, I'm here for the fun when we win. I'm not necessarily here for the fun when we have nothing to celebrate. Like, that's just what he, exudes just from having conversations with him. So I feel like Miami just needed that extra push of someone who wasn't going to take it. And we go from there. So yeah, Miami, NC State, I see them in championship. And I think it'll be good. I think NC State ultimately wins the ACC. That's what I'm hoping. Wow. And maybe I'm hoping because I really want NC State to have a good year, because I think it's high time they get some nice things so they can shut up about it. So we can stop having the I'm ready for the woe is me conversations to stop. We're cursed. Like, blah, blah, blah. So I'm hoping for a healthy year. And this is all things perfect. Everyone's healthy. Right. How it stands on paper right now. All this could shift in game 1.
You know what, man? I'll say this. As you know, I'm an NC State alum. We talked on camera about this. I'm scarred. We had expectations many times, and we've crapped the bed every damn time. And I look. I like Dave Doran a lot. I'll be real. I didn't like the hire at first, but he grew me like a great fungus. I really like him. Okay. And Devin Leary's been there 1,000 years, so I like that too. Yeah. But until I see, granted, the first 4, we talk about the first 4 of Wake Forest, right? Of Duke, I should say. I think we played Texas Tech. We played the first game at East Carolina. That should tell me something. Because if we shit the bed at East Carolina, I might be there.
I don't see that happening. I just think
it shouldn't happen.
As someone who I went to see ECU Cincinnati, and while it was everyone was fired up in the first quarter, it quickly died when you realize they weren't that great, So I'm not really sure what all the hype is about, but crazier things have happened in football. So I'm not going to say it won't, but I'm not feeling that one.
Well, at East Carolina, we host. I'm not going over here, but we host Texas Tech. We host UConn. We host another school. So that takes us, I think, a couple more games. That takes us to Clemson in week 6, to your point. I'll tell you what, if we do beat Clemson in Death Valley, that something we hadn't done in forever, man, I would be so insufferable. I'd be like, damn the jinxes. We beat Clemson back-to-back years.
Yeah.
I would be ecstatic. But to me, I believe when I see it, and there's something about Dabo and the underdog role.
But he's not the underdog because they predicted them to win the whole thing. So there's no narrative. He can't. That's not even funny. Like, that's not even like we're not even believing you at this point.
You're right.
The false narrative. The only thing that they have is they have 2 new coordinators, which again, they're internal hires. They've done it before. They've been in national championship caliber type situations. So I'm not buying it.
I'm just looking forward to see how that quarterback does. CJ, whatever
DJ.
Last name. Yeah, DJ. I said CJ. My bad.
Yeah.
DJ.
No, yeah. But DJ has a lot of pressure on him because if he doesn't do well in a city like Clemson, South Carolina, they'll quickly find your backup. And Cade Klubnik is right there behind him, ready to go. And we all know that they will side with Cade quicker than they side with DJ.
And he's a hotshot freshman, isn't he? That like the young man. So he's was he 4-star, 5-star, something like that. So
you might see a Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence type situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. So I mean, look, okay, fine. Again, I've been scarred by NC State many times. So I'm going with Clemson in the Atlantic. They're going to have a dogfight with my beloved Wolfpack. Wake Forest will have something to say about that too. Because I have to go to Clemson has to go to Wake Forest. And also in the Coastal, the only thing, I mean, I've been burnt by picking Miami a lot of times too. But there's something about, I'm telling you, I'm scarred. But it's something about Mario Cristobal, to your point. He's no BS kind of guy. He got rid of that stupid ass turnover chain. So that should give us in a positive direction if you're a Hurricanes football fan. The only thing that puts them ahead of Pitt is that obviously Kenny Pickett's not only Kenny Pickett graduated, but they don't have Jordan Addison either. Lost him transfer portal to USC, which I think Coach Pat Narduzzi is still pissed off at USC about.
Very much.
And he should be pissed off about it. He was just stolen from him. So, and we don't know how the Slovis kid's going to perform at quarterback either.
Yep.
And they got a lot of kids coming back outside of those 2 positions. So I like Miami over Pitt. But keep your eye on Carolina. But I like Miami over Pitt. And so in the title game, what the hell? I'm going with Miami. I mean, again, they've scarred me before. They burned me before when I picked them. But I think Mario Cristobal is that dude. I really love Tyler Van Dyke when he came on and plus the injured De'Aaron King. And he started was he a freshman last year?
De'Aaron King?
No. I'm talking about
Tyler, yeah.
So he was a true freshman last year, lighting it up. So I think their ceiling is huge. And combined with the Mario Cristobal factor, I think the U is going to be on its way back. They won't be back yet, but they'll be on the way back after they win the ACC title for the first time ever. And then once they start making noise on the bigger stage, the playoff stage, that's when the recognition of the ACC comes back, I think. Yeah. With Miami being Miami, I don't know what the hell is going to happen in Florida State this year, but maybe Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech improves this year as well, but it's really about Miami.
Yeah.
Because people want to see Clemson. If you have Miami back doing Miami things, look out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, crazier things have happened. I'm excited for the season nonetheless. I think it's going to be a good one.
Cool. And on that note, with this high hope, we're going to close the podcast. Candace, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah, at Locked On ACC, at Candace D. Cooper. You can find me on Twitter. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On ACC. So appreciate the time and the opportunity to get and talk shop, and really looking forward to the next one.
And she puts out videos every day, y'all. So check it out, please. Great videos. And so from my end, thank you as well, Candace, for taking the time out. And remember, guys, get the merch, CavalryPress.com, social Countdown Sports, as well as please do your like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll be glad you did, and you'll be glad you did, because the algorithm is real. And one last thing, please check out our website, www.clowntimes.net, and we'll go from there. So anyway, thank y'all for tuning in to this ACC podcast. Hopefully we'll have Candace back soon talking about more shop about all things ACC. Until next time, take care, be safe. We out here.